You'll see beauty everywhere. You'll see it even in people that you used to think were unappealing or unattractive. You'll see it in poetry. You'll see it even in the music that you listen to. Life just becomes this moment-to-moment ecstasy. That's what you'll start noticing. That's what you'll start seeing. You'll be visited by sudden sense of peace and calm. Inspiration comes to you quickly. Unexpectedly, you feel loved, not by a person, but just loved. For years, I was taught this by a great teacher in India named Patanjali from 2,300 years ago. And I've learned, that the sound of Ah is in the name of virtually every name for God, whether it's Allah, Krishna, Buddha, Ra, and on, Kali, Durga, on and on they go. The sound of Ah is in there for a reason, because it's the effortless perfection. So using it, if you ever wonder even what is a good inner mantra, one of the best mantras is just the word God, just God, effortless perfection. It means you don't have to do anything to make it happen. And in volume 3 of The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, it says this on page 137. It is a well-known fact that the oftener you say or use the word God, knowing it to be the highest principle indwelling and flowing through you, the greater benefit you will derive from it. Allow me to repeat. Our thought is, you cannot say God or use the name too much. See God as creative principle flowing through you. Concentrate and energize that principle and send it out with more dynamic influence. Because of the fact that it is always flowing through you, as well as around you, you are able to give it a greater impetus by sending it out with the whole force of your being, impelling it outward. And some of the research that I did when I created that Meditations for Manifesting years ago and started doing the Ah and Om meditation, so much of the literature on manifestation and the things that Patanjali taught revolve around the use of the inner sound of Ah within you. So practice that, think about that. Notice, even at the end of the Ishakriya meditation, just how blissful you feel after just making that sound. And when we did it in here collectively with 1,000+ people in here, it just generates a very, very high feeling of well-being and spiritual liberation. Okay? So I want to talk about 2 things, and then Anita and I are going to dialogue, and then I have a presentation I want to make about the things that I think you'll start seeing in yourself when you become this being of light, when you shift your emphasis away from yourself as a human being and into a spiritual being. But I want to talk just a little bit, just briefly, about the soul. This is not the infinite consciousness, but this, it's called Jiva, J-I-V-A. It's the impersonal, or it's the personal view of what it is that is going on within you, independently of anything or anyone else. It's this internal, interior awareness that you carry with you. That's just a part of your being. And I ask the question very often of myself, my children, my audiences, what is it that the soul wants? What is that thing inside of you, that thing that we call the soul or the spirit, that propels you forward, that is encouraging you, that wants you to fulfill a dharma that you've signed up for? It's surprising because the soul isn't, I wrote it out this way. The ideal of the soul, the thing that it asks for, is neither knowledge or light or happiness. Believe it or not, the ideal of the soul is space. It's immensity. It's the one thing that it needs is to be free to expand and to reach out and to embrace the infinite. Yeah, the ideal of the soul is infinity. The very first, and I haven't forgotten, by the way, the 4th poster. I'll get to it after Anita and I speak. The reason that the soul strives to expand, and this is, when you see this, you'll start even treating your children different, and even your animals different. The soul doesn't want anything. It's not trying to get anything. There's nothing for it to possess, because it's like in a dream. Anything that you possess, when you awaken from the dream, you realize it's just all an illusion. And you don't hang on to it. You don't wish that you could have it. You don't bemoan the fact that, all of that wonderful things that you had in your dream are not there anymore. From an awakened position, you look back at the contents of the dream, the city that you were in, the houses that were there, the cars, the children, all that, and you realize from an awakened perspective, when you awaken, as you look back on it, that it's just all an illusion. It's like a mirage. And the same thing is true of this dream. This is what Vasistha really teaches us. It's too hard for us, because it's just so large, and there's just so many of us, but that all of this is basically the same, and you'll see that. You'll come to know that, particularly when you leave this body. That from an awakened perspective, everything that you think is so real and that you have to have, one of the great ways to overcome the fear of death is to remind yourself that every night when you go to sleep, you die. You leave everything that you have, all the things that you own. You let your family go. You let all your money go. You let, anything that you've ever been attached to, you just go. And not only that, not only do you just let it go and merge yourself into an unconscious state, but you can't wait to get there. You can't wait to just lie down and go unconscious. I just want to be unconscious. I don't want to have anything at all. You do it every single day. And, the fear of death is it's like having a fear of sleep and going into sleep, when all of the stuff that you've accumulated and think is yours. Well, the soul, if the soul is infinite, if it wants infinite, think about what the word infinite means. Infinite means beginningless and endless. If you understand infinity, the concept of a creator is impossible. This causes usually big silence. Why, when there's a concept of infinity, beginninglessness and endlessness, and when you think about this universe we're in, how could it possibly end? What do you think's at the end? A wall? A bridge? How did the wall get there? What's it made of? And what's on the other side? Become just three of the questions that you begin to ask yourself. You realize that if this universe and you being a part of this universe has no ending, then it also didn't have any beginning. But a creator implies that there's something there to create it. And that something that is there to create it was there, before infinity? So the idea that something or someone had to create all of this doesn't fit in with an awareness of infinity, beginninglessness and endlessness. We can't grasp it, because it is just, we're trying to grasp the concept of something that had no beginning and had no end with something that did have a beginning and does have an end. Your brain or your mind or your body. You're trying to put into something that is finite a concept of infinite. But that which is infinite can't even acknowledge or recognize something that is finite. If it recognized something that is finite, it wouldn't be infinite any longer. We just have to get ourselves past that. That's why meditation and getting quiet is so important. Now, your soul just wants to, because it's infinite, it means it doesn't want to stop any place. And not stopping any place means it doesn't want to have a leash put on it. It doesn't want to have a fence put around it. It doesn't want to be put into a box. Every place that I've ever spoken, I always hear parents talk about children and how inconsiderate they are when they say, "You're not the boss of me." You laugh because you've all heard it or you've said it yourselves. You can't tell me what to do. I'm my own person. You're not the boss of me. Who do you think you are? That is not a bratty child being disrespectful to their elder. It is a soul saying, You don't get to decide what I am. And the prophet Khalil Gibran says, your children are not your children. They are the products of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not for you. Your children, they understand that they're all scurvy elephants in a way. They're all disturbing elements. They don't want to be put into a box. And it isn't like you can put the body into a box, you can put it into a cage, you can tell it what to do, you can dress it a certain way, you can tell it what to think, you can feed it certain kinds of teachings and so on. But the soul of the child, the soul of you, has always resisted anybody putting them in a box. Because the soul is beginninglessness and endlessness. And the moment that you try to stick it in here, tell it what to be, it fights that because it's infinite. Infinity can't be finite. It's the opposite of infinite, finite. Finite means it stops. Finite, finish. It finishes here. It starts here, it finishes here. The soul doesn't know what that is. It just it wants space. It needs to expand. That's what all of you want to do. There's a theme song that there is for the soul. The theme song for the soul was sung by Roy Rogers and Gene Autry about 50 years ago or more. Ready? Oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Let me ride through the wide open spaces that I love. Don't fence me in. Don't put a box on. Don't put a leash on me. Don't tell me what I have to do, what I should do, what you think I should be. I am my own person, and I must be allowed to be that. Now, you can corral that and you can tame it. I brought along a little video. It's about 2.5 minutes. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I picked it up off the internet and I checked it out, and it's an authentic thing. And it's just a simple little cat that someone is trying to put. Have you ever tried to put a leash on a cat? Well, watch this cat. Watch this cat. Can you play that video for me? And just remind yourself, this is you or your child when you're being told that this is how I want you to be, and forgetting that this is a cat. This is not what I want it to be. Go ahead.
One first ring. It's like, no.
So this.
Oh my God, that's stretched in. You're fat, boy. You're so fat. Oh, he's just giving up already. Yeah, I'm not moving.
Okay, let's go for a walk.
Monkey, come on, let's go for a walk. Come on.
Okay, let me put you in a
He's
box.
sport.
Let me put a leash on you.
Come on. Let's go for a walk. Let's go. Monkey, come on. Dude. Monkey.
Stand him up.
You're too good. You're too good for this. Good bye. Seriously, dude? Come on, stand up. Stand up. Monkey.
tail's right between his legs.
He's purring.
What's wrong with you? Huh? What's with this? What is with this? No. Come on, stand up. Good boy.
Well, I won't even try to stand up.
Monkey. Come on, buddy. Come on. There we go.
See, you can support yourself.
All right, let's watch the magical transformation.
He's cured!
Isn't that great? That's your soul. That's anytime anyone tries to come into your life and tell you what you should be or what you can't be or how to do things and so on. That's you can get the body to conform. You can get them to do things the way you want them to do. You can get them to conduct themselves in the ways that you've directed them to be. But inside, the soul just says, all I want to do is expand. I just want to keep going. I want to keep on growing. And the minute that you put it step, you've gone from infinite to finite. And that which is infinite cannot even recognize anything called finite. Because the minute it does, it's no longer infinite. It's now part of something that is finite. So that's your soul. And a very important thing to remember, especially with your children. It's, when I received my doctoral degree back in 1970, my mother wrote me a little poem telling me how proud she was of, that I was the first person in my family to even ever set foot inside of higher education, let alone get a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree and then a doctoral degree and so on. She just couldn't be more proud. And she said, I didn't really know how far that you would go, but somehow I knew you would touch a star. She said, all I knew, and this is such great parenting advice, she said, a mother can but guide, then step aside. Guide and step aside. Allow them, even if the things that they seem to be doing, in your opinion, are damaging or deleterious to what your objectives are, it's still this whole idea of just allowing those souls and not putting a leash or not putting a fence around or not putting it in a box. And it's one of the things I can say most proudly of all 8 of my children, that I never went in there and told them, this is what you have to do, this is how you have to do it, you have to do it to please me. I know when my oldest son was in, my oldest son is a son that I adopted from was my wife's first marriage. And he came over, he was in England for a while, and then he came over when he was 16, and it was time for him to go to register for college. We got him into a college. He was about 18. And my wife was just all concerned. She said, well, you're going to take Shane over and you're going to have him, you're going to show him how to go through registration. You're going to show him how to do all of that. And I said, I'll take him over to the school. Yeah, I'll help him through that. And we got in the car, and this was his first day actually in America in higher education. And we arrived at the campus, and I said, this is the campus. He said, yeah, but he said, where do I go? How do I do it? I said, well, there's a whole group of people over there. It looks like there's some lines and all of that. I remember my first day in college when I had to register. I went where all the people were, and you'll probably figure that thing out. And I said, meanwhile, I've got a tennis match at 9 o'clock, so I'll just, and I just let him go off and figure it out. She was just mortified that I wouldn't walk him through the steps and take him through that. And you don't learn that way. I have a very dear friend. Her name is Carrie, and she has two little girls, Kamiley and Kylie, Hawaiian girls. And this is a while back. They're now 17 and 18, but this is when they were about 6 and 7. And she brought them over to the house, and she was out there, and we were out by the swimming pool, and she said, do you think it's possible that you could watch Kylie and Kamiley for just maybe 2 hours while I go shopping? I never, ever get a chance to even just go shopping. I said, absolutely. There's no problem whatsoever. She said, you don't understand. My girls, they fight all the time. And she said, I'm always breaking them up. I'm always having to separate them and all of that. And my grandson, Carter, was there as well. He was about 5, and they were 6 maybe, and 8, something like that. And I said, look, I can handle it. It's a swimming pool. I'll just make sure that they don't drown. That's all I'm there for, is just to make sure they don't drown. She said, yeah, and she's just back and forth. I don't know. I better not leave them. I know how my girls are. They're always at each other. They're always fighting. I said, just go shopping. Just go back. I'll see you in a couple of hours. So she went, and about 15 minutes after she was gone, Kamiley came running up and said, Kylie pushed me. Kylie pushed me. She was splashing on me. She was getting all upset. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, I am a Taoist master. I said, I am at peace. I choose peace at all times. I said, splashing is something that takes place at a pool. I would expect that. So you just enjoy yourself. She just walked away. Oh, my God. 15 minutes later, her sister comes over, and she's really screaming and all upset. You know, it's just, Kylie did this, and Kylie did that, and your grandson, he doesn't have any respect, and he pushed me. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Let me just ask you a question. I want you to try to imagine how little I care. I said, Kamiley, no matter how hard you try, there's no possibility you could ever imagine how little I care. I'm only here to make sure that you don't drown. As long as you don't drown, the pool is yours. You can do anything that you want. It's all yours. I'm not interested whatsoever. And that's pretty much guide, protect, make sure they're safe, then step aside and allow them to go out there and make their own mistakes and so on. The soul, their soul, will appreciate that. And as you could even hear when my daughters got up here and were talking, they were never, ever told that they had to do anything to please me or anyone else. You know, if they came home from school and they were 4 or 5 years old and they say, Billy doesn't like me, Billy doesn't like me. I said, well, how do you feel about you? Well, I'm fine. Well, then what do you care? Well, Billy told me that I was dumb. I said, well, that's just Billy's opinion. I said, tomorrow, Billy could come in and say that you're a car. Would you be a car if Billy said you were a car? Told you to get down on all fours, took out a funnel, put gasoline in your ear? Would that make you a car? Well, I could never be a car, Dad. That's so stupid. I said, well, you can never be anything other than what you choose to believe about yourself. That's just a way of interacting so that as adults, they understand that. One more thing I want to say before Anita and I come up, and that is I was deeply blessed to come into contact with a very divine spiritual master. He passed away when I was 4 years of age. His name was Peter Dunov, D-E-U-N-O-V, Peter Dunov, a name you might want to get to know. He's from Bulgaria. There are some people here from Bulgaria, I know, because I talked to a woman yesterday. I was speaking a little Bulgarian to her, and she was pretty shocked. Albert Einstein said, the whole world bows before me, and I bow before Peter Dunov. He was called the Master. He was born in 1864, died in 1944. And he has written many, many, many books, several hundred actually. I've read quite a few. I did a past life regression that I was written about in Wishes Fulfilled. And in that past life regression, I saw myself It's just as real today, this moment, as it was when I did it several years ago. And I went back, and I was this man, this older man with a white beard, and I was trying to talk to my son, who was very angry at some of the things that had happened to his mother from some of the people and so on. I don't want to go into all the details of it, but I've never forgotten the face of the man that I was being in that past life. And then someone sent me a picture, a book, a large book called The Life and Teachings of Peter Dunoff. And when I looked at the cover of that book and I saw it, I said, oh my God, that's exactly who I was in that past life. But then I thought, how could that be? He was alive at the same time I was for 4 years of my life. And then we begin to understand that time and beginnings and ends and causes and effects are things that we've just all invented. That the universe is just one. It's just oneness. And it is possible, it certainly was for me, because I've never forgotten it. And I was just invited to write an introduction to one of his books that's being published in London. I wrote the foreword to it. In 1944, when Bulgaria was occupied by the Nazis, there was a Tsar in Bulgaria, and he was in hiding. And the Nazis there had declared that all of the Jews who were living in Sofia and throughout Bulgaria were put onto trains, and that the trains were going to go take them to the concentration camps throughout that area in Eastern Europe. And they were all loaded. And people came to Peter Dunoff, who was considered to be the master, this incredible teacher of divine love, spirituality, higher consciousness, peace. His work is it's just astounding. Just talking about him gives me goosebumps. When I'm thrilled to think about how honored I am to have been asked to write the foreword to a book of his, because he's going to be regarded as one of the greatest teachers of all time. He was educated in Bulgaria and also in America for about 6 years, and then went back and did his morning sessions and something called paneurythmia, and teaching people about how to be divine beings. And his devotees came to him and said, Master, he was always called Master, what are we going to do? The trains are going to be sent, and the only person who can stop the trains from going is the Tsar, and the Tsar is in hiding. And we have to find the Tsar in order to stop this, otherwise 40,000 people are going to be exterminated. Because this was towards the end of World War II. It was late in 1944, in the fall. And Peter Dunoff just went into a deep meditation, and he gave the name of the city, which was just a tiny little village, where the Tsar was in hiding, because he was in hiding because Hitler had ordered him to be found and executed publicly because of his belief in God and higher consciousness and spirit. And the people went to all of his followers went to that little village, and there was the Tsar in hiding. And Peter Dunoff sent a message to him saying, if you do not give the order to stop these trains from going, then it will follow you into eternity, the evil deed that you are responsible for. And the Tsar, from his place in hiding, stopped those trains. And Bulgaria is one of only 2 cities and 2 countries in all of Europe where not one Jew was sent to a concentration camp during World War II because of Peter Dunoff. Denmark was the other. Such was the consciousness of this being who had this internal awareness. Because what happens when you start living at that elevated God consciousness place, there are no barriers, there are no breakdowns. You can see things that other people can't see. It's what's behind that 4th poster. So, in one of his books, he said there are three kinds of love. He said, the first is the kind that we are all accustomed to. It's called human love. And human love is a love that changes, and it's a love that varies. So that when we think of human love, we think, I love you today, but yesterday I didn't love you so much, and you forgot my birthday, so now I hate you today, and my love is constantly changing. It's there one minute, it's not there the next minute. And it also varies. There are times when it's very intense and very hot and very loving, and in human love, there are times when it's very cold and very distant and you don't want anything to do with them. This is human love. This is the love that we have come to recognize as the way that we function and who we are as people. To become a being of light, you have to move past that. And the second of these kinds of love that Peter Dunoff wrote about so brilliantly in so many of his books, you must get to know more about him. It's part of my feelings inside, my internal burning desires to bring the work and the teachings of this man to the rest of the world, and why I'm so honored to. I really feel that he and I share a twin soul in some way. I saw myself, even now as I close my eyes, I remember being in that past life regression and seeing myself as Peter Dunoff. And this is before I had ever even heard of him. I was put into that past life regression by a woman from Bulgaria, Mira Kelly. And it was her that introduced me. Actually, it was her mother that introduced me to the great works of Peter Dunoff and some of his students. So spiritual love is the second kind of love, and this is a love that never changes, but it does vary. This is a love that most of us have for our children, for our parents, often for our soulmate or the person that we just feel deep love for. It's a love that no matter what happens, no matter what they do, no matter how they behave, no matter how they might mistreat us, they might abandon us, they might walk away from us, they might conduct themselves in ways that bring shame to the family. It doesn't matter. You'll often hear parents of children who commit terrible crimes always saying, but it's my son, I love my son, I just love my son. And how he could have behaved that way, I don't know, but I just love my son, don't ask me to stop loving my son. That's a spiritual love. It's a love that never changes. But it's a love that varies. Those of you who are parents know. You love your children, you adore your children, you could never stop loving your children, but there are days when you just wish you didn't have to look at them. So it varies. It's up and it's down and it's in and it's out. And I must say, in traveling for the last couple of weeks throughout Australia with two of my daughters and being together every day, every night, and that we've just fallen even more deeply in love. It's just so beautiful, yeah. Aren't they beautiful girls? I mean, just... and even though they live in a different state than I do, in a different part of the country, in a different part of the world, in fact, some of them, I always feel that, my love for them is just, it's why I've always had such a difficulty with my own father, how he could walk away from three children the way that he did, but in some ways, I think that perhaps that was the way it was supposed to be, that he incarnated just for that, just to teach me forgiveness so I could teach it to you, and so on. So he's probably right here amongst us now saying, yeah, that was the life I chose. Then there's another kind of love, and it's a love that is symbolized by the orange. If I were to take this orange and I were to squeeze it as hard as I can squeeze it, and if I were to ask you what will come out, you would probably say juice. And if I said, well, no matter how hard I squeeze it, do you think you'll ever get pineapple juice out of this? Do you think you'll get cranberry juice? Do you think you'll get apple juice? You would say, no, of course not. You would get orange juice. And if I were to further ask you why, when I squeeze this orange, does orange juice come out? You'd say, well, it's an orange. And that's what's inside. And that's the answer. That's the truth. When you squeeze an orange, you get out of it what's inside. And it doesn't matter if you squeeze it or if I squeeze it. It doesn't matter if it's squeezed in the morning or at night. It doesn't matter what instrument you use, what time of day that you use, what circumstances are taking place. None of that is relevant to what's inside. When you squeeze an orange, it doesn't matter who does it, you can only get what's inside. Pretty obvious. And then if we extend that metaphor to yourself, and someone squeezes you, that is, puts pressure on you, that is, says something about you that you find offensive, that it behaves in ways that you find anathema to your belief systems, that is someone who is abusive towards you, that is someone who ignores you, that is someone who abandons you, whatever it might be. Someone squeezes you, and out of you comes anger, and out of you comes hatred, and out of you comes judgment, criticism, condemnation, fear. Out of you comes all kinds of stuff because you've been squeezed, and you don't want to be squeezed. And you believe, in your heart, somehow you believe that it was the person who squeezed me that caused this to come out of me. Or it was the way they did it, or it was the timing. They had no business doing it that way at that time. That's why I got so angry. That's why I responded with such hatred. That's why I struck back at that person. But the truth of it is, just like the orange, when someone squeezes you and out of you comes anything, it's because that's what's inside. How it got there, why it got there, different question. But what's coming out of you when you are squeezed, when you are found yourself under pressure, is what's inside. And the third kind of love that Peter Dunoff talks about is called divine love. And divine love is what this entire seminar is about. Learning to have what's inside come out when you're squeezed, no matter how you're squeezed, no matter who does the squeezing, no matter what time of day the squeezing comes. Because divine love, according to Dr. Dunoff, is a love that never changes and a love that never varies. It's the kind of love that our source, that God, the Tao, divine mind, Allah, Krishna, whatever you want to call it, has for us. It asks nothing of us. It wants nothing back from us. It's a love that's unconditional. Hafiz, the great Persian poet, put it this way: even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Just think what a love like that can do. It lights up the whole world. A love that is unconditional. And I aspire to it. I don't always get it. I told you the story of myself in Turkey, and I still, just even a few days ago, remember being in a restaurant in one of the cities that I was in. I think it was in Sydney, and I'm gluten-free, and I asked for a gluten-free menu, but there was something on the other menu that I thought if they could convert some of this and put it on that way and do it that way, then perhaps that would be the meal that I could get. Yeah, it was at Beppy's in Sydney. And I was just for an instant short with this waiter, saying, "But I want it this way." That's not divine love. Even though he was very kind and he just, but that immediate thing, and I caught myself, and I stopped myself, and I said to him, "Excuse me, I didn't really mean that at all, you know." And I changed it, I caught it, because that's what I'm in the process of doing all the time, is getting to a place where Jesus was, where it wouldn't make any difference what was said or how it was conducted. It's the famous story about Buddha. When wherever he would go, as a young man, Siddhartha, as a young man, traveling with his friend Govinda, and wherever he would go, he would preach and people would criticize him. They would find fault with him. They would humiliate him. They would say things that were embarrassing. They would, berate him and so on. And always he responded with kindness. Always he responded with love. And finally, one of his devotees just got so tired of watching how he would be berated with what his teachings was. And he asked him, he said, Master, how come no matter where we go and people say such terrible things of you, criticize you, why is it that you always respond with love? And he said, let me answer your question with a question. If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept that gift, to whom does the gift belong? That was his answer. And of course, if someone offers you a gift and you say no, a gift of their criticism, a gift of their comment, a gift of their hatred, a gift of whatever, and you say no, that's not mine, who owns that? And basically, Siddhartha, as a young man, Buddha, was saying to Govinda, why would I allow myself to be upset about something that belongs to someone else? It has nothing to do with me, it's not mine. And always what came out of him was love. That's divine love. That's the highest kind of love that there is. Who'd like an orange? Want an orange? Come on, you got to catch it. There you go. Enjoy the orange. So I wanted to make those 2 points about the soul being infinite and therefore always wanting to expand. And the moment you try to put the brakes on it or a leash on it, think of the cat. The minute that you put the leash on it, you're telling it, I want you to stop being a cat and I want you to be the little doggy that I want you to be. And he's saying, this is who I am. Don't put a... And work with yourself at every time you find something coming out of yourself that is unpleasant, that is angry, that is fearful, that is hatred, whatever it might be, anytime you find it coming out of you, don't berate yourself, love yourself, but catch yourself. Number 1, watch the thought. Number 2, correct the thought. Number 3, change the behavior. Number 4, when you've changed the behavior, you reconstruct your subconscious mind until ultimately now it will become automatic. Because even the little statement that I made, I haven't told anyone about that night at the restaurant when I was there with all of those people. But I recognized in myself a sense of just slight impatience that is not respectful towards someone who's offering to bring food to me. Okay, I would like to invite my dear friend, my sweetheart, Anita, to come up on stage. Would you like some water?
Oh, I have some.
Oh, you have some?
I have some over there. I'll grab my water. Thank
So
you.
does this work here? Does this work okay? We're going to just
Yeah,
sort of...
this works great.
We've never sat on the couch.
No.
Maybe we can make up... No, is Danny still here? He can take pictures. He can take the videos. He's got his camera. All right, here we are, my dear. And we have about 45 minutes or so. And we've decided... Anita has another presence. She's working on another book. I like the title, at least the working title. What is it called?
It's called "What If This Is Heaven?" And then the subtitle is, "If it is, then why does it sometimes feel like hell?"
And you're taking a look at some of the myths and so on, and
Yes.
that are surrounding, especially your experience. And
Yeah. What I'm doing is basically the message from my first book is so simple. It's just so simple. So the second book is about if the message is so simple, why is everyone still struggling?
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's go back to, what was the date again, February?
February the 2nd, 2006.
So it's close to 10 years now, 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's 9.5 years.
Yeah, that you went into this coma. You, and let's share a little bit more in depth about your association with cancer. Because cancer is a big word, and it's it's all over the planet. We live in a carcinogenic world. There are more people making a living off of cancer by far than have cancer. We have cancer awareness, which you spoke about, and instead of having wellness awareness. I've always liked the idea that if you take the word illness, the first letter of illness is I, the ego, illness, and the first two letters of wellness are we, when it's like looking at it from more of a collective perspective. But what was I'm always interested in your relationship to your best friend. What was her name? Sonia?
Sony, yeah.
And the fear, because such a big part of your message is how fear and cancer just go hand in hand, don't they?
Yes, they do. And I was petrified of getting cancer. So I was obsessive about not getting cancer, especially when I saw her with cancer. I was so scared that I would get it. And there were two things at play, and there's something that I'm going to share here which I very rarely, in fact, I probably haven't shared it in public. But I was such a people pleaser. I was such a people pleaser that I used to be, I would say I was a doormat. And when my friend Sony had cancer, I could not say no to her for anything. So even if I went out without her, I felt guilty. I just felt really awful that she was there sick, dealing with cancer, and I was healthy, and I was going out, and I was doing my own thing. So literally, I sacrificed my life just to be with her. When I was diagnosed with cancer, there was a part of me that felt, now I don't have to deal with her. I can take care of myself. And I've never really admitted that publicly. I think partly because I've not wanted to hurt her family and people.
Interesting, Anita, that we become what we think about.
Yes.
And this is a very big part of the whole lesson of all of it. Our thoughts create our reality. We can pick the thoughts that we have. So if your thoughts are on what you don't want, wouldn't that mean that you're going to attract what you don't want because that's what your thoughts are on?
Yes, but I always say this one other element is that it's also our emotions. It's how much we love ourselves as well. And I feel that when we love ourselves, when we value ourselves and we feel worthy and deserving of good things, we don't even have to watch our thoughts that much. We expect good things. It just feels good. But when we don't love ourselves, then we start to feel fear. And when we feel fear, then our thoughts are fearful, and then we attract the fearful things.
Yeah. So when your friend had cancer and you didn't,
Yes.
and you were around it a lot, you still thought about it a lot.
A lot. So I started to research on the internet everything that I could do to prevent myself from getting cancer. Because she was my age. I mean, we were both in our late 30s, and to be with somebody your own age who gets diagnosed, and it was an aggressive form of cancer. It was all of a sudden she was diagnosed. She was having difficulty breathing, and they told her, so she went for these tests. They told her she had a sarcoma in her chest, and it was aggressive and it was growing fast. And I got such a shock when I heard that someone my own age could have that. And of course I was very, very sad at the prospect of losing her. But I also just started researching everything about cancer on the internet. And the more I researched, the more fearful I became. because I started to learn that everything causes cancer. Microwaves cause cancer, sunshine causes cancer, certain types of plastic causes cancer. It was like,
In the water
everything.
we drink.
The
it's
water
what
we drink, the food
foods
we eat, the pesticides, it was like everything living causes
Right.
cancer. So I
What
became
about
really
now?
fearful.
What about now? Do you watch what you eat? Do you worry about pesticides?
No.
Do you not drink without plastic? How do you deal with it now?
I don't worry about it. Not to say that I don't eat healthy. I mean, I do choose organic food, but I don't research it. I don't live to avoid cancer. I live because I want to live long, because I love my life. I'm passionate about my life. I love what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else, thanks to you. I found my calling in life. And so I choose wisely. I do eat organic because I love my life, not because I'm scared of cancer.
Fear is great. Fear shows up in ways other than just cancer. Maybe we can talk about that for a minute. Like the question of why do you drive? I see that they really enforce speed limits over here. And one of my drivers just said, that even if you're going 3 kilometers per hour over, that they'll gladly give you a ticket, and so the question becomes, all the little ways that fear shows up in our life, and I'd like you to address this as well. Like, do you drive the speed limit because it's the safe thing to do, and you want to be law-abiding and keep everybody safe, including yourself? Or do you drive the speed limit because you are afraid that if you don't, you're going to get a ticket? Yeah. Which one is it? And it's the second one for almost everybody. Now, we don't think much about that, but that's fear. That's just a tiny little bit of fear that magnifies in so many of the things that we do all the time. I'm afraid that if I don't, I won't get in your case, you were a people pleaser. You were always afraid that you were going to displease your father, your mother, and
Yep.
And what's wrong with an arranged marriage anyway? What's the big deal? It's like, but think about it. In so many of the things that we do, that we're always just looking over our shoulder, thinking that something bad is going to happen to us if we don't do it that way. That's almost like a cumulative, collective kind of inner agitation in all the cells of our body, because we know that every thought that we have has an impact on our bodies. What is an ulcer? It's the chemical reaction to a thought, and it grows because we think worrisome kinds of fearful thoughts.
Yeah, in fact, we're brought up on fear. I was brought up to believe that if I didn't behave a certain way because of my culture, my gender, and so on, then I wouldn't attract a good husband, and so on. And so everything, like even at school, you have to compete and get ahead of everyone, otherwise you fear that you don't get good grades, you don't get into good college. And so when I tell people that we have to choose from the place of love, choose because you want to do this, choose your career because it's what you want to do, because you can fail even at something that you chose out of fear, something that you chose to be safe. People who choose the safest job can still be made redundant, so you might as well risk and do the thing that you love to do. Anyway, when I tell people that, I do get people saying to me, but fear keeps you safe. And I say, no, fear immobilizes you. Love keeps you safe. Because when you love yourself, you value your life. You value what you do, and you take better care of yourself.
I had a woman come to my home one time and tell me that it's not what you eat, it's what you believe about what you eat.
Yes.
Yeah. That you can eat industrial waste, and chew on old tires. And if you absolutely have a knowing within you that this is going to make you healthy, that cancer isn't going to grow and so on. How do you feel about that?
I agree with that, and I'll tell you why. Because I go to India frequently, And when I go to India, I'm so careful about what I eat and the water I drink, and I don't eat raw vegetables there. I make sure I cook them because of the germs and all. But then I watch these people, the very ones who help me load my suitcases into the back of the car, and they're so strong, and they're barefoot, and they're drinking water straight out of the tap, and they're eating food while they're squatting on the floor, and they're stronger than I am. So yeah.
I remember being a young boy, and what we drank water out of the garden hose. We just passed it around when we were thirsty, and the idea of getting one of these, and having to make all of this plastic, I don't ever buy these. I sort of rebel against them. The idea of creating all this plastic to put some water in,
Yep.
We have something in the ocean. It's 1,000 miles big with plastic bags. Just 1,000 miles, 1,000 miles across, and it's just all floating plastic out in the ocean. Very many levels down as well, because we're all so filled with somehow. That if you take the word Evian, which is it's just some water that comes out of the ground in France. Somebody just played a big joke on us. You spell Evian backwards. Naive. We're so naive that we believe that if we don't drink this water that's poured into this plastic, which is about as contaminating as it possibly can be, that we're going to, and they just take the water out of it and put it in naive and say, oh, this will be $3.50, please. I want to go back to what it's like on the other side. Yeah, everybody does. We all want to know that. Do you feel that you met God?
Yes, but then God was me, and you.
You're going to go to hell for that. You be very careful.
Somebody wrote on my Facebook the other day, a couple of weeks ago, that you have been blinded by the devil. I will pray for you. But then somebody else posted underneath, I've met her husband Danny, and he's not that bad.
So God is not a being.
No, God is not a being.
What is God?
God is a state of being. And when we forget that we have these bodies, when we can get in touch with who we really are, that is the state of being, that is God. God expresses itself through all of us.
And God has no beginnings, no ends, no forms, no
because
substance,
any of those things limit what it is.
So while you were in this state, you're looking at your body, and your body is really broken down. I've seen the pictures, the ones that you don't want other people to see. And I mean, you were a skeleton. And I know being in that body had to be just loaded with so much pain for you. And here you were free of it.
Yeah.
For the first time in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And first of all, why do you think you chose to go back into it? And number two, I know you mentioned your husband, but I think, and what about all the people who didn't have that choice and didn't go back into it?
I believe that, first of all, some people, when it is their time, when their time is done here, when their work is done, they don't get the choice to come back. Then they stay in that realm. For those that do get the choice, if they choose not to come back, they do it only because that is the more unconditionally loving choice. It's possibly because they feel they can take care of their loved ones better from being in the other realm. Because when we're in that realm, we absolutely feel nothing but unconditional love for our loved ones here. Even if it's somebody that you have fought with your whole life, even if you fought with your siblings or your children or your parents, from that realm, everything is understood. That whatever anger you feel, it's gone. So
there is no anger.
There's no anger. There's only pure love. So if you have a loved one that died young, There's no way that they didn't come back because they didn't love you enough. Absolutely not. Either they didn't get a choice because their work was done, or they felt they could do more for you. They could love you more from that realm.
Because in putting together this book that we've just published, The Memories of Heaven, there's so many stories in there like this of children who passed on and came back in the same families and so on. But that third poster over here, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, then the whole body shall be filled with light.
Yes.
It seems that our goal, even though we're in a body, and because we're in bodies, we have dichotomies. There's up and down. There's you and me. There's female and male. There's east and west, and so on. And it's very hard for us to contemplate a world in which there are no opposites.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. I mean, it's just the only time I ever get even close to experiencing that is when I'm in a deep meditation.
Yeah. In fact, meditation is good exactly for that reason, because you lose yourself, you lose your physical body, because as long as you are in a physical body, as long as we are in a physical body, we are in this world of duality, because then there is a separation between you and me. When we can forget or lose our physical body, and that's in the state of meditation, then there's no separation, because in actuality, our consciousness is one. We're connected. You and I, we share the same consciousness, as do you and I. And from that realm, I could see as to how it was like one big, complete tapestry. And each and every one of us are like this thread woven in the tapestry to make this complete tapestry. But we're all connected. That means even without words. I mean, to give you an example, I wrote this piece on the internet, but you found me, and you actually, Hay House, tracked me down and sent me that email. It took them 5 months. But the moment they found me was the exact moment that I was ready and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And
so it's the whole universe, and every act and every thought and it's still all interconnected.
It's all connected. We're all one. We're all part of one consciousness.
So hard for us to get that, isn't it? Because it's just so big, and there's so many of us, and there's billions of us, and we each have these thoughts. But I think the dream state is such a good analogy. It's analogous to just briefly understanding for a moment what it must be like to be in a place where there is nothing but love. It's like the metaphor I use is a house on the sun, because it's on the sun and it's the source of light. There can never be darkness. Darkness is just not a possibility. When you're with the source, when you're with God, when you're with the source of living from God realization, you're with the source of love.
Yeah.
And so there was just no possibility of any anguish or anger. Were you fearful at all when you met your father, when you saw your father? What was his reaction?
Not in the least. All I felt from him was this pure, unconditional love. And exactly like you say, imagine if you're living on the sun. When you're living on the sun, you don't know darkness, you don't know nighttime, there's only sun. That's what it's like. It's living in pure love. And it's almost like we choose to come here. It felt to me like to be able to come into this physical life, into this world, is a gift. It's actually a gift. We get this choice to come. And as much as many people feel they're suffering, we actually choose to come here to experience this duality, to actually get to know who we truly are. Because in that realm, we can't know who we are. We can't know how we react in circumstances, because there is only love.
But do you think we can get to non-duality in this body that we're in this ego state that we live in?
I don't think we can get 100%, but meditation really helps us to deal with being in duality.
Right.
It helps us to deal with the frustration of being in duality.
Yeah. Some things that you didn't share that I want to ask you about. So you were diagnosed with cancer, lymphoma cancer.
Lymphoma, yes.
Serious cancer. And you proceeded, what did you do first?
So the first thing I did, so my friend was actually dying even though she was having conventional treatment. She was having aggressive chemotherapy and radiation. So the first thing I did was reject the conventional treatment because...
Okay, well, that's important.
Yes.
So you said, I'm not gonna have chemo, I'm
Yes.
not gonna have surgery, I'm not gonna take drugs, I'm not
Yes.
doing that.
I'm not doing that.
Okay, and what did you do?
So I went to, I started to become vegan and do natural things. But then, at that point, I found that I wasn't really improving. So I went to India.
Okay, so how long before you found out you had cancer, and then how long before you decided, okay, I'm going to go to India, this isn't working?
Probably
just
about-
changing your diet wasn't enough.
Yeah, so although I'd become completely vegan, I started to get a little too weak. And so then it was about 6 or 8 months of trying that, and then I went to India.
Okay.
And I
From Hong
followed-
Kong, you went to India, and you left all your medical people, all of that behind.
Left it all behind. And then I followed an Indian yogi master who told me to follow an Ayurvedic diet, which was quite a bit different from being vegan, because on an Ayurvedic diet I was able to have more cooked food, not so
Rice
much
and
raw
things,
food. I was able to have rice and also dairy products,
Right.
totally acceptable. So after following that and doing the yoga in the morning, and also a lot of it was, a lot of the things he said, cancer is just an imbalance in your body. It's a word that causes fear. So I want you to forget about the word cancer and just, and all you have is an imbalance in your body. And once we balance everything out, there's no room for any illness. Illness can't remain in your body when you're balanced.
So there's something called GNM. I don't know if you're familiar with it, German New Medicine. And basically their theoretical position is that every disease that comes into your body is there for a reason. That if you go in and get a pap smear and you find out that it's irregular, that it's not that you're sick. It's that something is taking place to heal your body. I was told, in reading GNM, when I was diagnosed with leukemia, that leukemia is the body's way of attempting to heal from unresolved traumas in relationships, particularly from when you were very young. And that this leukemia's presence in your body, if you can forget about the leukemia, in other words, don't attack it with chemicals and all of the kinds of things that we do, but instead understand that you have been living with unresolved conflicts about being abandoned, about all of the things that were just so much a part of my life, that if you can go within and heal that, then the leukemia will be doing its job. And they say this about cancer as well in GNM. How do you feel about that?
I agree. I feel that our bodies are actually incredibly smart. I feel our illnesses are our body's way of trying to heal us. I mean, people tell me that the cancer nearly killed me, and I say, no, the cancer actually saved my life. I was killing myself even before I had cancer. With being a people pleaser and with fear and living my life out of fear. Every decision, every choice I made up to that point was made from a place of fear.
So all these fearful things, the little cute ones that we were talking about earlier and the big ones about particularly this fear of death, it's interesting how many people who work on cancer develop cancer as well.
Yeah.
I find that a lot.
I've noticed that as well, yeah.
So you left Hong Kong.
Yes.
You left traditional medicine. And how long were you in India?
I was in India for 6 months, and I
Okay.
improved dramatically.
Tell us about those 6 months.
So during those 6 months, I was following a routine of getting up in the morning and doing yoga. And I was doing yoga at sunrise and at sunset, and I was following an Ayurvedic diet in between. But more than that was really seeing not only my yoga master, but all the other people in the group who he was teaching. And we were all of the same mindset. You know, we shared recipes for that kind of food, but we all believed in the same thing, that the body is sacred, the body is incredibly intelligent, the body knows how to heal, and we just had to create the most optimal conditions for the body to heal or function optimally.
Right.
And we all had sort of the same culture. Now, when I was doing the naturopathic diet in Hong Kong, when I was first diagnosed, I was surrounded by people who thought I was crazy and doing the wrong thing.
So, and your cancer wasn't going away.
And it wasn't going away. I was filled with fear as well. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. There were people telling me that, you know, that you've got to do what the doctors say, do the chemo, do the radiation. And there were other people telling me that, oh, if you do the chemo and the radiation, you're poisoning your body. And there was just so much conflict that I was more in fear than anything.
So I think of so we live we immerse ourselves in a world where the energy around us really impacts how our body is going to react to whatever's taking place within it. If there's a whole lot of people telling you, you know, that you're doing this wrong and this is stupid, or my aunt did what you're doing and she died. I remember when I had a little tiny skin cancer on my lip or someplace on here. Oh, it's here where that little scar is. And it was just a one cell, single cell cancer. And I remember telling a friend that, oh, I'm going into the dermatologist and they're going to cut this out. She said, oh my God, that's the same. Basal cell? That's the same thing. My husband's cousin's brother, they had to cut his penis off. I said, I just got a little thing here on my chin. It's like, it's not, but I mean, so people are willing to tell you all of these horror stories, and our minds, you know, just start going insane, don't they? They start going into this crazy place. So you think about,
And cancer is a word that causes a lot of fear in people. It's a very loaded word, and so that's why I always tell people who are dealing with it, I tell them, don't think about it. Don't think about the word, even if you're going for treatments. Don't focus on the treatment. Don't focus on the illness. Focus on what you love to do.
Right.
Focus on joy.
And don't
passion.
talk about it, and don't complain about it, and don't use it as a calling card, whatever it might be, whatever struggle you're going through. And I say that not just about cancer, but about, you know, if you were abandoned when you were a child, if your mother liked your sister better, or if you were an alcoholic, or your father was abusive towards you, or if you were sexually, abused and so on, you know, to just use that as a calling card, you know, you're constantly bringing that kind of attention back instead of getting past it.
Exactly.
But I think about, like, if you look at how the body looks, sometimes the things that we see, I mean, I can't tell you, having 6 daughters and having a wife who's very involved in all of this, how many times people that I know have gone in for just simple little pap smears and found out that they had a bad reading and immediately started getting nervous, and now they're going to, you don't know whether I'm going to have, should I have a hysterectomy? Should I have this and that? And then they go back the next month, and it's completely gone. It was like the body's way of just going in there and finding, what is the body doing when this is taking place? Just
you know, the thing is, the body is changing all the time. And I often feel that when we go for these checkups, you don't know, in that moment the body could be doing something. But you're just getting, like a scan or a smear is literally a photograph of that split second.
Right.
You could be different 5 minutes later.
Well, sure. Well, imagine I would have cut my arm right here, cut it pretty seriously, and the body starts going to work. It starts doing, what does it start doing? Immediately it starts sending all kinds of additional white blood cells and red blood cells start going in there, and then it starts developing a scab around there, starts healing itself, and then around that scab you'll see some pus coming out, and it looks like a scabby, pussy mess that is on your arm. And if someone just came in there and looked at it and said, oh my God, we've got to cut this thing cut this thing out. Let's just take that right out and cut it all away. You would say, wait a minute, without the scab and without the pus and without all of this, this thing isn't capable of being healed. It's no different on the other level as well.
Exactly.
And when we look at what we see and it looks unpleasant or looks scary or looks like it's inconsistent with our well-being, we immediately want to treat it with drugs.
Yes.
Or take. So I want to go back, and then we're going to open it up for about 10 minutes or so with some questions. So if you have some questions, there might be a mic that's going to circulate this wherever that mic. You have it, the mic there. Yeah. You went to India for 6 months, and 6 months later, you were healed.
I felt fantastic, and I came back. Everybody said I.
So that's
looked
how you
better.
tell whether you. That's the same with me. I don't go to doctors to
Yeah.
get my white blood cells count and to check on any. I don't do that at all. Plus, I take zero medication of any kind. I don't take any prescription drugs at all. I only take supplements, drink juices, do my coffee, my little thing, and I go on the basis of how I feel, each and every day, and that makes me know that I'm healed, at least in this moment today. So 6 months go by. Now, what in the world makes you go back to Hong Kong? Okay, you've got family there, right? Your husband is there.
Yeah, my home is in Hong Kong. I was missing my husband. Although he was coming to visit me every month or 6 weeks, he would come for 2 weeks and then go back. I missed my dog, I have to admit that. I missed my dog very much. And my home was there, my friends.
Right.
My family are kind of spread out all over the world, but I missed home. So I went back.
Were you fearful about going back home? Because you knew you were going to go back into a different environment. Was your best friend still alive?
My best friend was still alive, and I was fearful about seeing her because I knew she had been deteriorating. In the 6 months that I was feeling better, I knew she had been deteriorating in those 6 months.
Okay.
So I was fearful about seeing her.
But you did go back.
I went back.
And what happened when you got back?
And when I went back, I saw my best friend, and so much of the fear came back. And then everybody said to me, because I said I was fine, I was feeling fantastic. They all said, how's it going? How's your cancer? And I said, it's great, I'm feeling really healthy. Everybody said, have you had the scans? You should go and check up, have a checkup, prove that you're feeling fine.
And in the scans, what are they looking for?
Looking for cancer, of course, yes.
So you're looking for cancer, you're looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not going to find love in a place that's looking for cancer. You're going to find cancer or something that might even indicate, well, possibly it may be this reading is a little bit off and so on. And instantly what happens when you get those readings and you get those reports back is the body starts going into withdrawal.
And what happened is that at first I resisted having the scans, but because of all the pressure, I became more and more fearful. And I could feel my health deteriorating as I became fearful. And finally I gave in, and yes, the cancer had come back. But I could feel it. I knew that if I was in a different environment, if I had stayed in India, I would have been fine.
You knew that?
I knew that.
You still know that?
I still know that. And a lot of this is what my second book is about. It's about how the dominant paradigm around us, how much it affects us. Because today I'm not the person that got the cancer. I'm not the same person who I was before. Because afterwards I've changed my environment. And so my second book is actually about that when you get it, when you really get it, when you understand the truth, it's very hard to put it into practice because the people around you judge you for it. And people, people would call me delusional. Even after my near-death experience, when I was fully healed, people would call me delusional.
So you went from getting cancer, going to a place that was fearless, a place where you were meditating, a place where you were doing yoga, a place where you were changing your diet, a place where you were talking to people who did not believe in cancer, but instead believed in well-being. That was the focus of all of the time. You started healing, you went back, and you start immersing yourself back in this culture
Yes, and people were constantly printing things off the internet, handing them to me, saying, "You've got to read this," and all that, thinking they're doing well, but it's all the fear stuff. That these are the signs you have cancer, and this is what you have to watch out for, and all that.
I would get letters in the mail with articles about people who had the same kind of leukemia I had, and how they had died.
Yeah, that's exactly the.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a list of all the people who have the kind of cancer that you have, and they're all dead now. So, well, thank you for sharing that. That was just that I feel so much better, and it's like you have to develop an inner kind of knowing or strength that doesn't get reinforced any place but within yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you went through. So a couple of years go by, and it's just now obvious you're dying.
Yes, and anyway, by the time I gave in and went to the medical doctors, and they of course wanted to treat me with chemo, which they did and all, but they had already told my husband that it's too late. She's dying. So they told him that she's dying.
So while you were in the coma, and you were watching them, didn't you see a medical record or some kind of an indication that said, if you go back, somehow you were told, now it isn't,
Yes.
there's no words in this realm. I know that it's not done with words. It's not done with, you don't get a prescription, or you don't get everything. But there was a knowing, a feeling, something inside of you that told you, if you go back, you will not have cancer.
Yes.
And you knew you were healed of it.
I knew that if I chose to go back, I would be healed, and not just healed, but my body would heal very quickly, because I would go back healed. What I understood was that I understood that the cancer was not, it was not like my karma, it was not a sickness. That's what I understood. It was not an illness. The cancer was me turning my own energy inwards, dimming my own light. And I understood that as soon as I came back and allowed myself to be who I am and just shine my light as brightly as I can, be as me as I can be as authentic as I can, there would be no room in my physical body for cancer. It was just my own consciousness that wanted to express itself, and I had suppressed it, so it had expressed itself as cancer.
And weren't you told that you had to live fearlessly? I mean, you have to
My
get
father actually, yes.
What did he say?
He
Or how
said,
did he
now that you
communicate it?
know the truth, but it was more like, if I put words to it, the feeling was that now that you know the truth of who you really are, go back and live your life fearlessly.
And you're doing that
And I'm doing that.
every day.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anita Moorjani.
Thank you.
Okay, we have about maybe 10 minutes or so. So I know there's a million questions, there always are. Isn't she unbelievable? I mean, the fact that I mean, that all of this story, what we've just been going through, is miraculous enough. How you and I came together, and and how some burning desire was placed inside of me the day that I read that thing on the internet, and I said, I have to find this AM person, Anita Moorjani. I have to find her, and I began to just put that out there, and then she called my radio show, and then I told her all of the things that were going to happen, and that you don't have to be concerned about any of it. Hay House is the absolute perfect, best place for you to be, and we're going to take your message to the world, because for me, it's like this is more than a miracle. It's something. It's an opportunity for us to look at this stuff that we've used that is destroying our population, and change it and turn it around and rid ourselves of it completely. We don't have to have and be beings who are so susceptible to cancer. We can change that, and it comes from within. So I don't know who's got the mics. Anyone you want to pick, it's fine. Yeah, we have to do it with the mic, okay? We'll get to you. Okay, we can only do 3 or 4, so go ahead.
Okay. Hello, Wayne and Anita. My question is, I mean, we hear so much about having to be fearless and to let go and let God. So I'm just wondering, how do we do that? What tips do you have? Because it's when we do think of saying, okay, I'm letting go, it's only words, but it's hard to let go and just be who I am. So,
Well, the first thing I would say is to change your question and stop telling yourself that it's hard. Because the minute that you convince yourself that it's hard, you will pick easy things, which is to believe that you can't do anything about it. And the second response I would have is just listen to my last presentation for the last 45 minutes or so. There's a lot of answers in that. And Anita, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, I would add to that, to what you've said, which is brilliant, is that every time you're making a choice or a decision on anything, like whether it's a job or a place to go, ask yourself, am I making this decision because I fear the consequences if I don't do it? Or am I making this decision or going in this direction because it's what I want to do, it's what my heart wants to do? And I ask myself that for every decision.
That's great. And I'll be going through a laundry list of things that I think you'll recognize. Yes.
hi.
Hi. Where are you?
Hi.
Oh, hi. Way up there. Hi.
Who chooses the life that we have? Is it just luck, random, or do we consciously choose the experiences that we'll have? Because it seems that some people have a disproportionately fabulous life, and some people have an incredibly challenged life.
Shall I have a go?
Yeah,
at
go
it?
ahead.
Okay.
I could talk about that I've been talking about that since all day yesterday, but anyway, go ahead. It's infinite consciousness. Infinite consciousness is unconcerned with whatever manifests within it. You manifest within it because you choose to be here. It's whatever dharma that you have to fulfill, and what is challenging, what you think is unbelievable challenging. I mean, when I read Man's Search for Meaning and Viktor Frankl and all of that suffering, I always wonder, how could we possibly, that man's inhumanity to man is beyond anything I can even begin to comprehend, that all took place in my lifetime. And yet I know in a deeper level, my friend Ram Dass used to say to me, Wayne, hunger, because I'm a part of the Hunger Project to try to end hunger on our planet. He said, hunger is a part of the perfection of the universe, but so is your desire to end it. Go with that, and don't put your attention on what you don't want, put your attention on what you intend to change. If you've ever listened to the conversation I had with Abraham when I talked about GMOs and how pissed off that makes me that we're genetically engineering our food and all of this, she really put me in my place and said, put your attention on what you want, unless you want more of what you don't want to keep showing up. Yeah. And that's what I do now. But I'll address more. But Anita, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, not at all. That was good. I would say that we always have the free will or the choice as to whether to follow our destiny or not. And our destiny is whatever is our highest potential. We chose to come here. I believe we chose to come here to fulfill our highest potential. But we don't always do that. And we have the choice as to do that or not. And I wasn't doing that, hence my body was trying to tell me that, and I didn't listen to the signals, and therefore I got sick. And so I did suffer. So even though my life appears to be great now, I did have to go through a lot of suffering to get here. And now I understand that whatever is our destiny is the highest potential that we actually chose, but we don't always choose it.
I love what Viktor Frankl said also when he quoted Dostoevsky, am I worthy of my suffering? Because one of the ways we find meaning in our life is through our suffering. Probably the greatest meanings in some of the stories that I've told you in here came out of some of the deepest and darkest and toughest times in my life. And it was almost as if the impersonal self, as if God, the infinite intelligence, whatever it is, said, I can't get you to get to where you need to go, where you came to go, without pushing you down here. As Oscar Wilde said, we're all in the gutter. We're all in the gutter. But some of us are looking at the stars. We're all in the gutter. Yeah. Someone, Mike's here. That gentleman over here really wanted to ask a question, so is there a mic? Where is it?
Hello.
Okay, two more. We'll just have a couple more because, yeah.
You talked about cancer being your own consciousness being suppressed. What's your view on children who get cancer?
Go ahead.
Okay, so
I've
now
heard you talk about this, so.
Yeah, so I want to be really sensitive about this because I want people to know that if your I want to make sure that the way I articulate it, no parents feel it's their fault that their children have cancer if they do. But there's a couple of different reasons. One is sometimes children may get cancer. They may have chosen it before coming in because for some reason it was needed for the parents. Because the parents are the ones who very often learn the biggest lessons from their children getting cancer. A second reason, and this is the one where I want to be careful, is that sometimes children get cancer because inadvertently their surroundings have made them feel inadequate, and not with words or anything, but even babies, even if they were unwanted. But if the baby or the child is very, very loved and very wanted and still gets cancer, it may be that they have actually chosen it from the other realm. So there's many, many reasons.
We have such a hard time with death, you know, and believing that this is, as Abraham said to me one time, if you really understood what it is like when you leave this body and enter into that realm, you would never have such a thing as a death penalty. It just wouldn't be possible.
That's a
you know?
gift, isn't it?
Yes, that is like the great, and that's what
That's the
Rumi said,
grandest gift.
and all of the teachings and all the literature and all of that I read, this idea that a child who dies at the age of 3 didn't fulfill our expectations, our collective belief that you're supposed to be born and live to be 100 and die in your sleep. And it's just not the way the universe is. And there is no difference between living 100 years and living a minute, because there is no time in an infinite universe. So even a miscarriage, we have 8 children, and we were in Machu Picchu, my wife and 4 or 5 of our children. We climbed up to the top of that, and my wife got pregnant in Machu Picchu. She was 50 years old, and that baby, that fetus, only lived about 3.5 months, and then she had a miscarriage. And I named that baby Waldo, because I just say, "Where's Waldo?" I think that 3 months of the life of that child is just no different than the other children who live 25 years. When you understand a timeless, spaceless, infinite universe. Death is not anything to be afraid of. In fact, it doesn't even exist. It's all an illusion.
Oh, I just want to add one other thing about the children getting cancer. One lady actually told me that her daughter, when she was really young, she had cancer. And the lady didn't relate it to anything. And of course, she was really upset that her daughter had cancer. And one day, it just occurred to her through a meditation or something. You see, the lady was going through a divorce. So she said to her daughter, as her daughter deteriorated, her health was deteriorating, she said to her daughter that, I love you unconditionally, and none of this is your fault, and I can't bear the thought of losing you. Please don't go, please get better." And she would say that to her, even in her own mind, and she would say that to her daughter, and that was the turning point for her daughter. She started to heal after that.
Yeah. Each story is unique. I'm sorry, I'm just aware of the time, and I still have quite a bit I want to promote. I want to get to this one last question, and then I know, but we could do this for the next 6 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, real quick, because it's already 3:15.
Question is, what does fear do for us? What does it do? What benefit is it to us? Fear.
We haven't been advocating that it's a benefit, so I'm not sure how.
Fear is the work of the ego, and it is of no benefit at all to us. We are instruments and beings of pure divine love, and the thing that fear does for us is it takes us away from God. It's the work of the ego, and the ego's acronym is for edging God out. It's like we edge God out of our life, and we do it through the space of fear. So our objective, if you read the Course in Miracles and all of that, fear its only purpose is to remove us from God, because the ego is terrified of God and love. It's terrified of that because it has no reason to exist once you're in a state of pure love. So it's just constantly pulling you away from it. Gotta go. Thank you. You're the best. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you. There were so many circumstances and things that brought Anita into my life. She was instrumental in my mother's last few days of making her transition with a sense of peace every moment of it. She had no more fear about it at all. And I can't tell you how many people's lives she's impacted and continues to impact. And while many people have had near-death experiences, it's not that uncommon. You'll see there's a whole literature of it, and there's lots of websites about it. No one has ever been at end-stage cancer where she is and has even ever survived, let alone come back and have 4 weeks later, they can't even find a place to do biopsy in her body. And now she's out here walking and talking and breathing, and that's the miraculous part of this, that she saw the healing take place and then came back and lived it. Okay, so one of the things that I want to do here, I want to put this into the course in the IAmLight course that some of you will be signing up for if you're interested in it. We'll be adding things to it throughout. This is one of the things I want to add to it because the course is out there now. We've already gone through a segment of it, and quite a few people have taken it. But I felt that there was something missing. And the thing that I thought was missing, well, all of the things that I've talked about for the last 2 days and that Anita has spoken about, I think are germane to coming to a place of realizing what it means to live a God-realized life. And all it takes is an instant. It just takes one moment to turn your life around. The 2 moments that I discussed here, the moment with my father and the moment on the Long Island Expressway when I decided that because I can imagine if I'd have continued driving and that burning in desire hadn't been there in that moment, it's just impossible to even conceive of it. This certainly wouldn't be taking place today. And I would have retired as a professor 10 or 12 years ago and lived a very different life. Those are just two. And two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. That was a road less traveled by. There's very few people who would have taken the road that I took and turned away tenure to have to fulfill something inside of us. So what I'm calling this is how you'll if you take on all of the things that I've presented here in the last 2 days, and from all of the readings that I have been doing, and you're the beneficiaries of my going through some very deep and profound and obtuse literature and trying to move it around and excavate through it into a way to make it to be more meaningful and applicable to our lives. And I've done the best I could with that. But I still don't think that there's enough specifics in there about the kinds of things that you'll start noticing about yourself when you just make this conscious decision to be a being of light, to come from a place of love and eradicate fear and all of the other stuff that's inside of that orange that comes out of you when you are squeezed. So I read a book a few years back. It was called How to Know God. It wasn't now to know about God, it was how to know God. And it was written by a great teacher in India named Patanjali or Patanjali. I use Patanjali, so I'll use it here. And it was a fascinating time in my life. This goes back maybe 10, 12, even further than that, 18, 19 years ago. And what I was trying to do was to because I've always been so intrigued with people who are capable of performing feats that other people can't perform. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's in athletics or whether it's in music. When I watch a great dancer, to watch a Baryshnikov in ballet, I mean, it's just to see the kinds of things that they can, because I'm intrigued by everything, and especially people who elevate themselves in the physical domain to be like the best in the world at what they be. The number one tennis player in the world today is Djokovic. First his name is Novak. Yeah, there it is. Novak Djokovic. It's a very hard name. It's Djokovic, Nakovic, whatever it is. Number one player in the world, just made a decision. And what he did, he was a top 20 player, and he decided that he was going to go gluten-free. And they changed his diet around and decided that he was going to watch everything that he put into his body and to not put anything in there that was toxic. And in less than a year, he gives total credit to just that, of removing the toxic side effects of gluten in his diet and wheat, and was able to elevate himself. That it just takes a tiny little thing. And I don't know if do you know? Do they have baseball here in Australia? No. Well, I'm going to give you an example from it anyway. Pardon?
My son's playing for Australia now.
In baseball? Oh, so they do have some baseball. Well, in baseball, when you go up to bat, if you can hit an average of what they call 250, that means that every 12 times you go up to bat, you're going to get 3 hits. And that will make you an average professional baseball player. 3 out of 12 times. They throw the ball at you, you swing the ball, and you get on base. All right? And now that makes you an average player at the highest level. If you're going to bat 333, which is probably will win you the batting championship, you'll be the best batter in professional baseball if you bat 333. All you have to do is get 4 hits every 12 times you go to bat. So you're already guaranteed to get 3, otherwise you wouldn't be there, right? So you're a 250 hitter. So now you've got 9 more chances to get 1 hit. And just getting 1 additional hit in 9 times, and you ought to be able to do that because you're already a 250 hitter. And yet, there's hardly anybody that gets there. There's such a small difference, a tiny little change where you just might bunt the ball and try to get on, or you might do something different. You might concentrate a little bit harder. You might do a little bit more practice or whatever it is. And you can go from being average to being a superstar. And this is true in virtually every profession and anything that you do out there. You're only a tiny little thought away from being the very best in the world at what you're doing or what you would like to do. It's just one little event can change everything. And Patanjali had 5, what I call the 5 aphorisms of Patanjali. What I was doing at the time that I was reading How to Know God, there are 40 sutras in How to Know God. And these sutras are words that you repeat to yourself. And if you repeat the first one to yourself over and over and over again, and then you put it into practice, and it's a mental practice, then the next day, you do this for 40 consecutive days. The next day, you do the first sutra, you repeat it again over to yourself, you memorize it, and now you take on the second one. And these are only a couple of sentences each. And then the third day, you take the first 2, and then you do the third. On the 15th day, you take the first 14 sutras, these things that are being taught to you about what it means to learn how to manifest, what it means to learn how to live at a magical level of consciousness, until ultimately you get to the 40th sutra. And you're able to do things that you never even imagined yourself able to do, including have a complete memory of the previous 39. And I got up to about 31 or 32, and my wife kept getting pregnant. It was her fault. I had to stop. It wasn't my fault. So I was practicing these sutras and seeing, there were things, because I watched something called the yogic races. And these are where they would have these yogis that would sit there in this position with their legs crossed. Now you just imagine yourself sitting like this, and then it's about 100 yards ahead. There's about 8 or 9 hurdles, and they start out about, let's say this is your level here. They start out about this high. So you bounce yourself down to that first one, and they're racing doing this. And then you lift yourself over this by just sitting in this position. You're able to lift your body up and go over it, and then you go on to the next one that's a little bit higher and a little bit higher until you get to the very end. Now, try to imagine what it would be like to just lift your body, just get your rear end off of the ground, even for a split second. But you have the capacity, all of us have the capacity to do this. My teacher, Abraham Maslow, used to say, self-actualizing people must be what they can be. There is something inside of them that says, if I have the capacity to do it, I must figure out how to be able to make it happen for myself. This is what I have done recently. I had someone come in and say to me this morning, you look so fit. I've been watching you for 20 years. You look better now than you did 20 years ago. You look stronger, you look healthier. I said, I have made a commitment to radical well-being, to making my body, at the age of 75, respond to me, because what I have come to know and understand is that what happens to you when you get older is a result of what you believe when you are younger. Even Alzheimer's is like the idea that when you're in your 20s and in your 30s and in your 40s, and you believe that the aging process is one in which you have to slow down, that your mental capacity begins to deteriorate, that your memory isn't quite as good as it used to be. I don't know if you've noticed about my memory, but I hardly used any notes the entire time that I was up here. Because, and I'm not asking for applause, I'm just saying I have made a commitment to myself that I do not have to slow down, I do not have to deteriorate, I can do anything that I put my attention on, including travel to Australia and then travel to London and travel to Israel and do these kinds of things, because you make a decision now, whatever age you are, that as I go through the process of my body going through what we call the aging process, that I am never going to believe that I have to slow down, that I have to deteriorate, that things can't work out for me as well, that I'm going to get something like Alzheimer's and so on. You need to make a declaration to yourself, now, to yourself, I will never attract Alzheimer's into my life. It is not something that I'm going to buy into. It's not something that's going to show up. If I start forgetting things and so on, I'm just going to work harder on my memory. I have the capacity to keep myself from doing this. And I've had people say to me, aren't you afraid to say that God's going to get mad at you and you're going to get Alzheimer's? I'm just going to say, who are you? If I got it. Why are you talking to me, you know? So what you believe affects not only whether or not you get cancer and all the things that Anita and I were speaking about up there, it affects every aspect of your life. And there's not a reason in this world that all 1,000 people who are in this room cannot make a decision to their own radical well-being. And if you just make that decision, the universe will help you to fulfill it. Remember Thoreau's definition of success. If you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. It will begin to show you. That's why I do the juicing. That's why I do the gluten-free. That's why I don't eat toxic foods and I eat organic foods. That's why I do these crazy coffee enemas and things like that, because I have an awareness that I can take this body of mine, and through my intention, I can make it as absolutely healthy as I declare it to be until I decide to leave this body. So this is what I was working at 20 years ago. And I've always known that you do not have to slow down. It does not have to, but you've got to be so cautious about the ways that you think and process this about your life. Make a commitment right now to yourself that I'm going to live from a place of radical well-being. All you have to do is make that commitment, and then what you're doing is you're removing some of the corrosion that has existed from living at ordinary levels of consciousness, is what just Castaneda was talking about when I was reading that earlier this morning. That corrosion starts to go away, and the universe sent me. I never made a decision that I was going to do juicing and coffee and gluten-free and all of that. After my experience with John of God and the healing through the entities and so on, and they're still with me because I've gotten pure. I haven't got time. If I had enough time, I would need about an hour to tell you how they made contact with me in Montreal just a few months ago. That I have an awareness that they're still here with me and guiding me. And once you are in that intention and you're living from that place, this universal consciousness will you'll start to align with it. And once you start aligning with it, it will recognize itself and offer you whatever it is that you need in order for you to fulfill that destiny that you've signed up for. But if you're believing that it can't happen, or if you're believing that it's hard or that it's difficult and so on, it doesn't know anything about hard. It doesn't know anything about difficult or about it not happening. This universal consciousness just knows about being. It just knows about love, and it will send you the right people, the right events, the right circumstances. That's what I can see clearly now is really about. So there were 5 aphorisms that I want to go through first. The first is from How to Know God. By the way, what I was really working at doing 18 years ago was seeing if I could get myself to levitate, to see if I could just get myself off of the ground, even if it was just for a few seconds or so. And I was able to do it, just for a very, very short time. And then I had the thought, I could do this on The Tonight Show. This would be great. I could go on there and show the whole world how great I am and what I can do. Boom! And I was never able to get it again, because that's why all of these great spiritual masters from all over the planet, and particularly in India and so on, that's why they don't go on television. That's why they don't go out there, because the minute that you involve the ego, all of this is done through God consciousness. And with God, all things are possible. And that leaves nothing out. The minute that you put your ego in there, you've edged God out and the possibilities for making it happen. If you're trying to do it for wealth or for fame or for ego or to prove yourself, to make yourself better, all of that is just a way of saying, I don't want to attract the angelic guidance that I would like to have. So the first of these 5 aphorisms says this: the central act of ignorance. Now, I'm using this word very carefully. Ignorance does not mean, it's not a pejorative term. Ignorance means uninformed. Just not stupid, but uninformed, just not knowing. All right? The central act of ignorance is called false identification with the world of the changing. This is really important. False identification with the world of the changing. When Vivekananda came to the West, this young, brilliant sage from India, living at Siddhi consciousness, Christ consciousness, gift of fish and loaves, was a brilliant, beautiful soul. And he was asked the question, how do we how do we get to this divine consciousness that you're living at? How do we get there? How do we get there? Like I was asking about finding me. How do you find it? Vivekananda said this. He said, in the springtime, go out and observe the blossoms on the fruit trees. He said, the blossoms vanish of themselves as the fruit grows. So too will the lower self vanish as the divine grows within you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to push anything away. You don't have to fight anything. You just have to re-identify yourself. No longer identifying yourself as, I am a person with a soul, but instead see yourself as a soul with a body, you know? And who I am is the soul. Who I am is this invisible intelligence. The false identification is the belief, and the wish is fulfilled. It's got a lot about this in the fourth aphorism. This whole idea that it's what my senses tell me that make my reality. I brought a little book here. It's by Lao Tzu. It's the Unknown Teachings of Lao Tzu. It's called the Hua Hu Ching. And there are two things in here that I want to share with you. There's 81 verses here too. The 59th verse says, if you wish to become a divine immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. This is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals who teach the methods of energy enhancement and integration that are necessary to reach the divine realm. These angelic teachers, the guidance that you ask for, the guidance that is there for you with all of these burning desires that have been placed into you, and you're saying, I don't know, I'm not sure, I can't afford that, I have to move to another city, I have to do that, I have to leave this relationship, I have to be away from whatever it might be. These angelic teachers cannot be sought out. It is they who seek out the student. When you succeed in connecting your energy with the divine realm, rather than the human individual realm, through higher awareness and the practice of virtue, the transmission of the ultimate subtle truths will follow. This is the path that all angels take to the divine realm. This is what I've learned in being around this angelic guidance, particularly since my mother passed, is that if you want to attract this angelic, whatever you want to call it, this divine intelligence, if you want to attract it to you, you must be like they are. If you're in a state of anger or frustration or conflict, in A Course in Miracles it says, a mind at war with itself remembers not eternal gentleness. You came from eternal gentleness. When your mind is at war with itself, when you're in a state of conflict, I even say to people, praying to God, who is only pure love, is only oneness, to resolve your conflicts, if you just think about how impossible that is, because God is only oneness. If God were to recognize those conflicts that you live with, God wouldn't be God. God is oneness. And for you to say, I've got this problem, I got that problem, when you look at the prayer of St. Francis, he says, make me an instrument of thy peace. He doesn't say, God, I don't have any peace, will you please send me some peace? He says, let me be like you. Where there is hatred, he said, let me be love. Let me bring love and convert this hatred to love. Where there is darkness, let me bring light. There's no darkness switch when you go into a room. The way that you convert darkness to light is just by being light yourself. That's the secret. That's what this first aphorism is. Stop identifying yourself as, and you will start doing this as you become a being of light. Stop seeing yourself as this person who has problems, this person who has conflicts. If God is only love, as Anita was describing, and if it's only love, how could it recognize hate or conflict or fear or any of that. It couldn't. It's like you're just blowing into the wind. It makes no sense at all to the divine intelligence. You have to be, like it says here in the Hua Hu Ching, you have to be, if you wish to become a divine immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. Be that. Don't ask someone else to do it for you and solve your problems. That's the first. And the second of this, and this is my favorite, it's the 60th verse of the Hua. The mystical techniques for achieving immortality are revealed only to those who have dissolved all ties to the gross worldly realm of duality, conflict, and dogma. You have to dissolve all of your ties to that physical world. I know you can't do that in one instant. I shouldn't say that. You can do that in one instant. And it's easy, because if you believe it's hard or it's impossible, you won't even take it on. As long as your shallow worldly ambitions exist, the door will not open. If you want to have God consciousness be there to guide you, you must think and act like God. You must be that. That's the first aphorism. The second is, the mind of the truly illumined is calm, because the peace of God within knows everything. This is a direct quote. God cannot express God within you until you can choose peace. When I used to drive all 5 of my kids to the same school, pre-K, first grade, third grade, fifth grade, seventh grade, whatever it was, they were all in the same car driving them all to school. And all of them arguing over who called shotgun and who's going to do this and this, and I want to play that, but I want to put this music and I want to do that. And I had a little sign on my dashboard of my car. It says, I can choose peace rather than this. And you want to be able to choose peace, to be in a state where you can't allow people to take you away from your peace. You'll start noticing that you want more quiet time, that you don't want to walk into a room and instantly turn on the television or have the radio on or have something blaring at you. That staying in a place of calmness. The mind of the truly illumined is calm because the peace of God within knows everything. God cannot express God within you unless you can choose peace. The third says, I just wanted to just give you one quote here from Mozart about content, because that basically is contentment. If you open up the first few chapters of Vasistha's Yoga, they talk about the gateways to spiritual liberation. The first one is called contentment. Contentment means you're in a state of gratitude and you're in a state of peace for everything. There's a quote from Henry VI in Shakespeare that says, my crown is in my heart, not on my head, not decked with diamonds nor Indian stones, nor to be seen. My crown is called content. A crown it is that seldom kings enjoy. Content. Instead of judging and wanting the world to be different and everybody around you to be different, just a state of contentment. It's such a blissful, peaceful way to live your life. They say it's the highest element of self-actualization. A person who is content, not wanting anything to be different than what it is. I love this quote from Mozart. He says, now this is Mozart. I mean, he was like 4 years old or something and writing symphonies that we still watch and play all over the world. I mean, he says, when I am, as it were, completely myself, entirely alone and of good cheer, say traveling in a carriage or walking after a good meal or during the night when I cannot sleep, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how they come, I know not, nor can I force them. I found this to be true for myself as well. I wake up in the middle of the night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You know. Rumi said, the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. I did all of my writing for Wishes Fulfilled and for Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life on the Tao, from 3 o'clock till about 6 o'clock in the morning, when the world was quiet, when there was less distraction. Whenever I write, I have a sacred place. That sacred place is filled with pictures of my children, with every verse of the Tao, with beautiful flowers. I mean, plants that, I have fresh flowers always in my home. Like my Dee, the one who works for me, is my co-author of Memories of Heaven. She brings me fresh flowers twice a week for the whole house, and particularly in my sacred space. And it's filled with crystals and mementos and just things that I love. And I swear I could put a broomstick in a pail full of dirt and it would sprout leaves. I mean, it's such a place of life. I've had plants in there that have been just on rocks. There's not even any dirt in there. I never even bother it. And they still keep blooming. They're orchids that just keep growing and growing. Find a sacred space in your life. Even if it's just one corner of your life. It doesn't matter how many children you have, it doesn't matter how busy your life is, one little sacred spot that represents a place for you to retreat. And I can see clearly now, I talk about the serenity spot that I used to go to when I'd be at my office and all the students would be there and they'd be all jammed around and everybody would have questions for me and I would just sneak out the back door, walk down 2 flights, walk 1 block away to this park on Utopia Parkway, go in there, and I had a rock that I would sit on. And I would just listen to the birds, and I just allow the wind to blow through what hair I had at that time. And just be in a sacred space. And sometimes it was only for 6 or 7 minutes. And just going to that peaceful place within, you'll find yourself seeking those places out. You'll find yourself noticing that when you get into the car, you turn the radio off. You'll find yourself noticing that when bad news, people start talking about it, you dismiss yourself. You say, excuse me, and you don't tell them why or anything like that. You just say, I just don't want that negative energy into my heart. When you watch people being beheaded or you see all of the stories, and instead of telling more people about it and talking about how terrible that is and so on, you make a commitment to be a peaceful being who is going to send out the kind of energy that's going to make such things impossible. That's what you can do, and that's what you'll find yourself doing. You'll enjoy your peace. Quiet, for me, peace, meditation, that place that you can't divide. There's no substitute for it. The third aphorism of Patanjali says this: the person who is steadfast. Now, this word steadfast is really crucial. The person who is steadfast, that means you never slip. It doesn't mean that you do it sometimes and other times you don't. Steadfast means always. The person who is steadfast in abstaining from falsehood, that is, never telling lies, not even exaggerating, always making a commitment to truth. And even if you find yourself fudging the truth a bit or exaggerating on something, you stop yourself. And if you say, well, it was, we were there, it was 22 times we were there, or I did this 22 times, and you realize that you've added 10, you say, or maybe it was less than that, but whatever it was, you're constantly correcting yourself and catching yourself. Not because it's so important about what number it is, but because it's a reminder to your inner self to be coming from a place of truth, always. All right? The person who is steadfast in abstaining from falsehood has the power to obtain for himself and others the fruits of good deeds without having to perform the deeds themselves. This is from Patanjali. This is so beautiful. I mean, I need 6 more hours just on this. This idea that as you elevate your consciousness, you don't have to go out there and perform and do all those things. You can allow, it will start showing up for you. It'll happen for you. It's the 4th poster that I asked them to make for me. And I love this. It says, the laws of the material world do not apply in the presence of the God realized. You don't have to go out there and work hard and do a whole lot of things. Like if Anita were to tell you how she got into my life and how I got into her life, it had nothing to do with any effort or any work or any going out and doing this and doing that. It was coming from a place of perfect love, and that the universe, you don't have to go out there and do all of these things and make it happen. You don't have to work so hard. Other people will do that for you. And they won't be able to stop themselves from doing it. They'll want to serve you. They'll want to help, because that's the place that you're coming from. I must read to you volume 2. How's our time? Oh, we're okay. Page 109. This collections of writing, by the way, is just, it's like spiritual porn, okay? I mean, it's just, it's just so good. The moment men become free from the belief that they are mere human beings, subject to human laws of life and death and the limitations which human beings have imposed, that moment they will see that they are free from all human limitations and may become sons of God if they will. The moment they realize they are divine, and I told you at the very beginning, the thing that we fear the most is our own divinity. The idea that we truly are these infinite pieces of God. We fear this. They are free from all limitations and possessions of the strength of, and possess the strength of divinity. And man knows that this divinity is the place where being becomes most directly in contact with God. Man is beginning to see and know that this divinity is not something to be injected into each from without. He is beginning to know that it is the very life of each and every person. This whole idea that I have to go out there and I have to work and I have to do this and all of that, you just shift your consciousness, and you will receive the fruits of the deeds without even having to perform them. All I can say is it's just worked for me, and it always continues to work for me. It's basically that definition of Thoreau's again. Advance confidently, follow your dreams, and you will meet with a success. Things will start chasing you. The fourth aphorism says this: when you are steadfast, I love these last two, when you are steadfast in the abstention of thoughts of harm, when you are steadfast in the abstention of thoughts of harm directed towards yourself and others, that all living creatures will cease to feel fear or enmity in your presence. I have just given a description of Francesco, St. Francis from the 13th century, who was living at Christ consciousness, and all living creatures, even the wild dogs, would be tamed in the presence of his energy. And all you have to do to get to this place, there are some people you know that when they're around babies, babies just can't take their eyes off them. I practice this all the time with babies. I'll be walking along and I'll see a baby and they'll be following me. The mother will be 15, 20 yards ahead, and the baby can't take its eyes off, because I am sending so much joy and love and peace and just excitement to that person, because I know that heaven lies about us in our infancy, said Wordsworth, right? And there are some people who babies just light up, animals get calm and so on. My daughter Sage, that little girl that you heard speak up here, it seems like wherever we go, butterflies come and land on her. They come and land on her shoulder, they land on her hand. It's been her whole life, because she has just such a love for animals. We were just at the Currumbin Park up in Brisbane with the koalas, and we had this private whole thing there. And you should have seen all of these little creatures coming around her. One of the birds just almost, one of these, we were at a bird show, and this thing came and almost landed right on top of her, and it's been happened to her whole life, because she's just a being of light and love. She had to be. Look at how she got here. I mean, that's one persistent little kid, I'll tell you that. So when you are steadfast, now here's the key. You are steadfast in your abstention of thoughts of harm directed towards yourself, that is finding fault with yourself or others. You just don't have thoughts like that anymore. And when you do, you catch yourself. You catch yourself. And if they result in behaviors that you don't like, you change the behavior. You change the behavior. You go back and you hug the homeless man. 5. He said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. And you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. And then he said, and I love this, dormant forces, that is, forces that you thought were dead, dormant forces, faculties and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. That's what a being of light is. Let me give it to you again. When you are inspired, that is in spirit, inspirado, when you are not in form, getting information, but in spirit, getting inspiration, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, whatever it is, all of your thoughts, they break their bonds. When I'm up here on stage, my thoughts break their bonds. When I'm speaking, when I'm doing this kind of thing, and even when I was playing, I played at a sort of a professional tennis level for quite a while when I was younger. When I was so involved in it, it was like your thoughts break their bonds. So here it is. When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, which is what consciousness is. Your mind transcends limitation, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. You're living in a different world. All you have to do is become inspired with some great project of whatever it might be, and it only has to have meaning to you. And then he said, dormant forces, that is all of these things, this angelic guidance that I was speaking about, which you have to be like it in order for it to recognize you, because it doesn't recognize lower energies, because higher energies don't even know that they exist down here. So if you're down here, you can't attract it. It's only when you're up here. That's what happened for me when I had the healing of my knee with Saint Francis in Assisi. That's what happened when I went to the bank that morning with Cheyenne, and forgetting about myself. Not because I'm great or wonderful, that's just what I was doing. I just was forgetting about me and saying, how can I make sure I serve this person? When you're doing that, dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. You discover yourself to be God, which is what all of the spiritual literature tells us to do anyway. It's all over the Bible. It's all over the Bhagavad Gita. It's all over the Quran. You can read all kinds of references to that. So those are the 5 aphorisms of Patanjali. You'll start noticing them. Now, when I was researching what I wanted to say at the end of this program, I went through Rumi's, he calls it his 7-step practical approach to becoming fully human, or to becoming a perfect person. And this is very simple, this is what they are. 1, he says, remove anger. I have a poem for each one, but I haven't got time to go into all of them. Remove anger. What is anger? Anger is an absence of peace. Anger is you saying to the world, what I see shouldn't be the way it is. If it is only the way I want it to be, then I wouldn't have to be unhappy right now. and you think, a lot of people think, I can't get motivated, we can't change things without anger. The best way to change anything, said Rumi, is through love. So removing all thoughts of anger towards anything or anyone, because they are lower, lower, and lower energies. Second, forgiveness. Whoever it is that wronged you. I had somebody just remind me the other day that somebody borrowed $1,500 from me about 8 or 9 years ago. And they said, aren't you mad at that woman? She still hasn't paid you back that money that she said that she would pay back. And it's been, I don't know, a dozen years or more. And I said, I distinctly remember forgetting that. It's forgiving and forgetting and letting it go. That anything or anyone who has wronged you in any way, send them love in your consciousness. And I'm talking about the hardest things of all. Sometimes it's the abuse. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours and hours of therapy that I have conducted with people who were sexually abused by a relative or were abandoned or whatever. And it was only when I was able to finally get them to the same place that I was at in Biloxi, Mississippi on the 30th of August in 1974, where somehow the impersonal self said, go back and send love if you want to change your life. And that moment, when I took my seatbelt off and walked back there and sat there, said those words, I watched myself do that, and I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even have I was 34 years old. I had no idea about all of this stuff I've been writing and talking to you about this last 2 days. But yet it was still coming out, because those burning desires become so strong that you'll find yourself acting in those ways. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Be a person who only sends love. Be a person who is the orange, that no matter what is said to you, no matter how you're squeezed, the only thing that comes out is divine love, the love that is given to us by our source. Here's the third one from Rumi. Surprised me. He said, refrain from speaking ill of anyone ever. This has been the hardest one for me, because it's just so easy to talk shit about people, isn't it? And they just give you so much stuff to talk about, you know. The way he did that, and she did that, and this one did that, and all of that. And to stop yourself. Now when I have people around me, and I have some people around me who have a habit of doing this, always talking negative about somebody, saying something about, I find myself saying, reminding myself, yeah, but she's really a nice person, or that, and now I'm telling them, I am working myself on not engaging in conversations which are put-downs of anyone else. But Rumi goes further than that. He says, not only that, but you are obligated to hide the faults of others, to protect anyone else from even knowing the things that you know about someone. That's the real challenge. Just be that person who knows something about someone that might be uncomfortable to know, or might be illegal, or might be immoral, or whatever it might be. And not only don't talk about it, but protect that person from ever having to have that information go anyplace. Be that person if you want to understand what it's like to be a being of light. And you know, it gets easier and easier to do. I find myself slipping. I slipped back into it a couple of days ago when someone was saying something about someone that we all knew, and then I stopped myself and I said, I'm really working on not saying these kinds of things about anyone. Who am I? Who am I to judge anybody else? No judgment, no criticism, no condemnation towards any of God's children. That's how we are implored to behave if you want to be a being of light. And what happens is you'll find yourself only thinking loving thoughts towards others as well, and overlooking their foibles, because who doesn't have them? The fourth is compassion. The Dalai Lama said, if we could take every child on earth at the age of 5 and have them meditate for 1 hour a week on compassion, we could eliminate all violence on our planet in 1 generation. From the Dalai Lama. That's every child at 5. 1 hour a week meditating on compassion towards others. In a generation, it's gone. I found that when my wife and I separated about 16 years ago, and I was in the closest thing to a clinical depression that I've ever been in, trying to figure out how could this have happened, and such deep sadness, that was one of those storms that I was talked about earlier with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. If you shield a mountain from the windstorms, you'll never see the beauty of the carvings. The storms of our life, that storm produced a book called The Power of Intention. It also converted me from being more of an ego-directed sort of smartass in a lot of ways, the way I dealt with people, to being a compassionate, kind, loving person. It took me to be in that space, and I now know exactly why and give great gratitude and thanks. And it's the only way the impersonal self, God, consciousness, could ever get me to get to where I have to be, what I signed up to be, the teacher that I am today, and the teacher that I'm heading towards in the future. It was by becoming a more compassionate person and being less flippant in my responses when I was on the radio and on television and so on, and finding a place of kindness and an opportunity to just put my arm around someone and share just a moment of love. I found that I became a healer in that process. Because Jesus said, you are not healed by me. You are healed by what? Your faith. It is your faith in your ability to be healed or to heal that will heal you, not in someone else. The fifth of the 7 steps for becoming a fully human person that you'll find yourself noticing is that you become, you live from a place of humility. In the Tao, the whole Tao is filled with all of the importance of being humble, of not telling people how great you are. There's 27 verses in the Tao that refer to water, that water is the strongest substance on earth. If you take the hardest substance there is and let water run over it, eventually it'll wear away whatever it might be, the hardest substance there is, whether it's granite or whatever. Eventually, the softness of water will triumph. And water always stays low. It goes to the lowest point. And it always knows that all of the rivers and all of the raging things above it will ultimately come to it. A place of humility, a place where there was a time in my life when I was always the center of attention at gatherings, at social gatherings and so on. I'm very verbal. I know a lot. I have a lot of words and so on, and can tell stories and get people excited and all of that. And I used to have people gravitate towards me and enjoy that. Now it's the opposite. Now in a social gathering, if there's children around, I'm with them. If there's babies, I have them. I'm talking to them about God. You better tell me what you know about God. I know you know. I know you know. Come on, you can tell me. And or I, even around my children now, when we're all gathered at the table, we're all eating, I just stop, button my lip. I find even how easy it is now to avoid arguments of any kind, because you play it out in advance before it even comes. If I say this, she said that, and then if she's going to say that, and I'm going to say that. You can do all of this in 3 seconds. Shoop, shoop, shoop. And you just say, I think you're right, honey. Thanks for pointing it out. And you just let it all go. You know, it's practicing humility. The 6th is contentment, which I already talked about, state of gratitude, contentment. And 7 is generosity. I pride myself on being the most generous person I've ever known, of all the people I've ever met. I give away virtually everything I make. And I take great pride in, and it's the weirdest part of it is that the more I give away, the more that just seems to keep coming back. Almost what you can't even stop it. It gets to be a... So, those are Rumi's 7 practical steps. Removal of anger, forgiveness, never speaking ill of others and hiding others' faults, compassion, humility, contentment, generosity, and just watch things flow to you. Here's the things that you'll notice in yourself as you become a being of light, as we get ready to leave. First thing you'll notice is that your inner mantra will change. The mantra of the ego is, what's in it for me? The mantra of the higher self is, how may I serve? My inner mantra for a good portion of my life, my 20s, 30s, 40s, was, what's in it for me? How much can I get? My mantra today is, how may I serve? How many people can I reach? How can I even be more generous with what I have? And it will become an automatic thing. As you become a being of light, you'll want less and less and less, and you'll want to give more and more and more. You'll notice the sense of humility, and you'll start seeing yourself aligning with God. I love the salt dal. Think of the ocean as God, and think of a salt dal. Here's from Ramakrishna. Once a salt dal, that's a dal made out of salt, went to measure the depth of the ocean. No sooner was it in the water than it melted. Now who was left to tell the depth? Think of yourself as like a salt dal and the ocean as God. And you melt into God. Where the path to God ends, the path in God begins. You begin to be and act like God. Become a salt dal. I think that's such a wonderful image, a salt dal. And as I go into the ocean, I just melt and become one with it, instead of trying to be separate. Some of these I've spoken about before. You'll start seeing yourself having a burning desire for radical well-being. I'm working right now at seeing how healthy I can make myself, and at what high a level I can make my body function at things that I never thought were possible before. With my eating, with my exercising, with my meditating, with what I read. I find myself spending 3-4 hours a day now just reading, spiritual literature that thrills me to do so. You'll find that you'll begin to see the unfolding of God in everyone that you encounter. Rather than seeing appearances, rather than seeing what the person looks like, rather than seeing their age, rather than seeing the color of their skin, rather than seeing their religious beliefs, rather than seeing what they're wearing and so on. I tell a story, and I can see clearly now, of Dr. Fritz Radel, who was my doctor, who was the best professor I ever had at the university. And we had a seminar. There were 6 of us in the seminar. It was an advanced seminar doing case studies towards the end of my PhD program. And he was giving us a midterm. And he walked into the room and he said, "This is your midterm exam." We all had our blue books out and we were going to write for 3 hours, and we were all ready for it. And he wrote this on the blackboard. He said, he didn't write it out, he handed it to us, and it had a little paragraph, and it said something like this. He said, "A self-actualized, fully developed spiritual being," but he just used the term self-actualization because we were studying Maslow's work at that time. He said, "A self-actualized being, man, shows up at a dinner party, and everyone is dressed in formal attire or semi-formal attire, suits and ties and nice dresses and gowns. And he shows up with a pair of blue jeans, wearing a pair of dungarees and a t-shirt and a baseball hat. What does he do? That's your question. You have 20 minutes to write about it. And he walked out of the room. And we all started writing feverishly about what we thought a fully functioning, self-actualized person would do under those conditions. That is, he certainly wouldn't change his clothes. He wouldn't get himself all worked up about it. He probably wouldn't even apologize for it, or he might explain whatever it was. We all wrote. And he came back into the room in 20 minutes and had each of us write what our answers were. And he took his briefcase. He was a great guy. He was from Vienna as well, and he knew Viktor Frankl. And he threw his briefcase down, and he said, "You all fail." He said, "All you had to do was write 3 words, and you would have had the answer." And he turned around and he took his chalk and he wrote on the blackboard, "He wouldn't notice." You'll start noticing that you don't notice. You start seeing the unfolding of God in everyone rather than the appearances or the external event. That's one of the things that you'll really notice as you become a being of light. Highly functioning people keep their imagination pure. You'll notice that you don't ever want to put anything into your imagination that you don't want to manifest. That's one of the great lessons of higher consciousness. That you don't want to put things into your consciousness that say, "It's difficult, I can't do that. It'll take too much time, I can't afford it." You never place anything into your imagination that you don't want to manifest. So you have to understand that if you put your thoughts are the currency that you have for your life. I always say, if I were to give you $1 million and tell you to go out to the mall and buy anything that you want, this is the currency that you have to get whatever you want. And you go out into the mall, and the first store you go into, it has a whole series of ugly things, big old rugs and lamps, and you look at these old rugs and you say, they want $30,000, $40,000 for each one of these? Oh, they're hideous. Send me home 5. You go to the next store and they've got lamps that are even more hideous that match the rugs, and you say, send 6 of those home. Now you've gone through $200,000. And all day long you've got this currency to buy what you want, and every store you go into you purchase what you don't want. Then you get home and you say, why is my house and my life filled with all this stuff that I don't want? And the answer is, you're insane. You have currency to purchase what you want, and you're using it to buy what you don't want. That's insanity. The currency that you have for getting what you want are your thoughts, the thoughts that you pick. If you're picking thoughts about what you don't want and constantly talking about what I don't want, even if you don't like the way your life is and you put your attention on what is, more of what is going to show up. If you put your thoughts on all the things that you don't want, and you're always thinking, like with cancer, and you're always thinking about what you don't want, and the universal law is the law of attraction, you will attract more of what you don't want because that's what you are thinking about. It gets worse. If you put your thoughts on the things that other people think that you should have, and those are things that you don't want to have in your life, but you're always talking about, my mother did this, and my grandmother wants me to do that, and this, and those are the thoughts that you have, you're going to attract more of the things you don't want because you become what you think about. If you put your thoughts on what always used to be, the way things always have been, and you're always talking about this is the way things always have been, we've never been able to do out, you will attract more of what always has been. The only way to attract things into your life that you want and you'll start noticing this as a being of light, is by putting your attention on what you intend to manifest and then acting like it says in the book of Romans, he calls those things which do not exist as though they did. You have to act as if assuming the feeling of the wish already being fulfilled and come from that place. That's how I dealt with the leukemia, almost from day one. Once I got over the shock of that this is a possibility, that this is something that I have, then I began to see myself as healed. And as I began to see myself as healed, that's when Dr. Piskova, contacted me. That's when the woman brought me the coffee thing. That's when the juicing thing. That's when the Gerson method started. All of these things began showing up into my life when I put and assumed the feeling of the wish that I have already being fulfilled. He calls those things which do not exist as though they did. You'll find yourself detaching from outcome. Not doing things because of how much you're going to make or what kind of rewards you're going to get or how much you're going to get or what the stars and the trophies and so on that you're going to get. You find yourself acting in your life, doing the things that bring you a sense of joy and detach from the outcome. And the irony is that when you detach from outcome, the things that you used to have as shortages in your life start to show up. The money starts showing up. The right people start showing up. The circumstances start showing up. You find yourself banishing doubt, trusting your own intuition, seeing beauty in ordinary places, and having an awareness that, for me, I used to not like the spiders that come into my house. You know, they build their little spider webs. Now I can watch for hours. I can see the beauty in it. I had right next to my toilet, right over by the paper, there was my buddy Gus. I called him Gus, and he was building a spider web. And every time I'd go in there and sit down, I would just, I could be in there for like 45 minutes. And I would just watch this thing spinning, this web, and I would find such beauty in that thing that I went away for a month, and there was a lady that was going to come in and clean while I was gone, and I put a big notice around and put a paper around and said, "Don't bother Gus. Whatever you do, don't get rid of Gus." Because then one day I went in there, and there were all these tiny little bugs or whatever it is that had shown up in the web, and then I would watch him come out and eat and so on, and I think, you start to see beauty in everything. That's what happened after the experience I had with John of God and the entities. Everything just looked so beautiful, like all of you do to me. Even here right now in this moment as we're getting ready to leave, all I can see are just happy, contented, beautiful human beings who have honored me by coming here and being willing to listen to me for a couple of days. It's a thrill that I can't even describe in words. The tiniest little things now send me into paroxysms of joy and excitement. You'll start noticing that. You'll see beauty everywhere. You'll see it even in people that you used to think were unappealing or unattractive. You'll see it in poetry. You'll see it even in the music that you listen to. Life just becomes this moment-to-moment ecstasy. That's what you'll start noticing. That's what you'll start seeing. You'll start seeing this, I had a little checklist of things like, you'll start having aha moments or eureka moments. Oh my God, that's what it is. You get struck by awe and wonder. Sell your cleverness. Purchase bewilderment. Doesn't watching that Hubble telescope thing just send you into like, where in the hell are we? What is this? You'll start seeing that in almost anything. You'll stop when we were coming out of the hotel right next door here. Just go into the lobby and look at those orchids. There's about 6 or 7 plants of the deepest, most purple orchids. And Cal, who was taking me over there, we were going swimming last night. I said, "Wait, just give me 1 minute to look at these orchids." You'll see awe everywhere. You'll be visited by sudden sense of peace and calm. Inspiration comes to you quickly. Unexpectedly, you feel loved, not by a person, but just loved. I feel that all the time. I just feel so loved. I walk into a room like this in a country in an opposite hemisphere from where I live, and I walk into this. Why I notice I always walk in from the back. I don't walk out here to make an entrance. I walk in, and I want to feel the love that's here, because I know you wouldn't plunk down the money that you did and give your time if you didn't have a sense of love and expectation of something beautiful. And it's such a wonderful feeling to have. Sometimes you'll just think of a person's name, and the next moment that person will appear for you, or they'll call you on the telephone. This kind of stuff will happen more and more. You'll find you have a particular desire and it gets fulfilled on its own. You'll have a sense that you're always being guided. Do you really sense that? Do you really feel that there is guidance available? And if you want more of it, just be that love. And ultimately, you'll start to have a sense and awareness that there's a purpose to all of this, that this is a universe that has no accidents. It's orchestrated by a divine, infinite intelligence. And who you are is not this body you're in, or these thoughts you have, or this mind of yours. All of these things showed up in the space, the quiet, empty space. Here's Rumi as we close. I tried to find him on the Christian cross, but he was not there. I went to the temple of the Hindus and to the old pagodas, but I could not find a trace of him anywhere. I searched on the mountains and in the valleys, but neither in the heights nor in the depths was I able to find him. I went to the Kaaba in Mecca, but he was not there either. I questioned the scholars and the philosophers, but he was beyond their understanding. I then looked into my heart, and it was there where he dwelled. And I saw him. He was nowhere else to be found. In your heart. Rumi, you who seek God, apart, that which you seek, thou art. If you want to see the beloved's face, polish the mirror and gaze into that space. Because in every single moment of your life, you can trust me on this, you have one choice. You can either be a host to God or a hostage to your ego. It's your call. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you.